that. All right, thank you all for coming today.
Okay, I'd like to, Ben, can you help open this file while I get Matt? I'm really excited that we've got both Matt Winker from Redline Dairy and Andy Holschbach, Director of Ozaukee County Land and Water Management. And I hope they're here, right? All right, okay. Well, so they're from the neighborhood up here, way up in the corner on this map. This is just upstream of outside of our watershed area, and part of the Regional Planning Commission area. We had seen them talk elsewhere and have been collaborating with Andy over the number of years. And one of the, I was laughing because the only major criteria of being able to talk was Matt said, well, I got to be able to get back home to my animals. So you better put me on early in the program, otherwise we're good. So here you are, Matt. First thing. So appreciate you both coming out here. So, and I think we've got you keyed up.
Yeah.
Okay. Here you go. All right.
Well, good morning, everybody. First of all, I want to thank you for having us here this morning. And more importantly, I want to thank you for having the topic of soil health on the agenda. I think soil health is the most important topic and issue we can address to improve water quality. Right now, our soils are stressed. They truly are. Soils are not allowing the natural capability for water to infiltrate into the soils. They've been over-tilled. Soils have a lot of chemical fertilizer put on them, which can help reduce organic matter. The structure is not in the soil like God and nature intended it to be. If we're talking about water quality, we need to be talking about soil health. We need to get that soil healthy. And I'll tell you what, I grew up on a dairy farm in Manitowoc County, and in Ozaukee County now we formed an Ozaukee County Demonstration Farm Network, and we also have a Clean Farm Families group. And over the last 5-6 years, I've been able to see how by doing certain conservation practices like no-till, cover crops, and so on, you get the soil structure to develop and water can actually get into the soil. I heard you talking about dredging earlier. Truly, if you're like a lake organization or so on, you need to get focused on the land that's within that watershed, get it managed for soil health. And we'll tell you more about what soil health is all about. So when we talk about soil health, we're talking about the biological, chemical, and physical properties of soil. These are all systems, and these systems need to be functioning together. Basically, we're mimicking nature, and nature is never wrong. Nature is always seems to be in sync and do things right. So we're trying to mimic nature as we go through this. With soil health, there's really 4 principles. Well, there's 5 now. Animals were just recently added, but we want to provide a continuous living root, and I'll show you why later. We want to minimize disturbance. Soils need air, water, food, just like you and I do. And the soil is full of life, which I'll show you a little later too. We want to maximize biodiversity, and we always want to have the soil covered. So a couple basic concepts people need to understand is that the soil is alive. It's not just a medium that you plant into. It's full of life. And also when we work with producers, we try to talk about relationships. You have to understand everything is interconnected, the plant, the soil, the air, the water. And like I said earlier, we're mimicking nature. Don't treat me like dirt, I am life. This happens to be a water bear. This is a critter that lives in the soil. It likes moist type soils. This would be a critter that can survive temperatures as low as minus 328 degrees and as high as roughly 300 degrees Fahrenheit. They say if we had, if the earth was almost destroyed, this critter would probably be alive. But there's a lot of amazing life in the soil that we often don't think about. This happens to be bacteria that's multiplying within the soil. If I were to take 1 teaspoonful of healthy soil, there'd be as many microorganisms as there are people on earth within that 1 teaspoonful of soil. So you have this powerhouse of microorganisms that could break down nutrients in the soil and change the structure in the soil. And Matt will talk about more about what he's doing. Plants and soil are one. Here's a plant root. A lot of people don't understand this, but when plants are living and growing, those roots are exuding sugars, carbohydrates, proteins. They're actually feeding the plant. So the plant and the soil work together. I think that's a pretty cool slide. So what we want to do is we want to optimize solar energy. When a plant photosynthesizes, it's taking CO2 and it's putting carbon into the soil. We were talking a little bit, I heard climate change mentioned. Improving soil health would probably do the most for helping to reduce CO2 emissions. You're taking carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, you're storing it in the soil. So here you have a kind of a plant community, and you can see there's nice and green. I love seeing nice and green. Here's two fields. One on the left isn't doing very well right now. It's not taking the sun's energy that's available at this time, and the soils are bare, subject to erosion. Do you know that about 50% of the nutrients that are put on a crop field, as when you're using like commercial fertilizer, only about 50% is utilized by the plant, and the rest goes elsewhere. On the right is a nice cover crop mix that was put on a farm in Ozaukee County. You'll notice there's some like alfalfa growing there. That's a legume. Our atmosphere is 78% nitrogen. So why not grow a legume, take the nitrogen from the air, store it in the soil, let the plants use it instead of putting on commercial nitrogen. These are the types of things we try to do with our demonstration farm network and so on. Another real interesting thing is Mycorrhiza fungi. Mycorrhiza fungi, it's a fungi that lives in the soil. You can see the yellow portion there, that's actually a root. All the white fuzzy stuff there is Mycorrhiza fungi. How many of you have, like when you're digging in your garden, you pull up a plant and you can see all the white fuzzy cottony things? That's Mycorrhiza fungi. Mycorrhiza fungi has a symbiotic relationship with the plant roots. So you see all that white network there, that's actually bringing in water to the plant, bringing nutrients into the plant. So it's a nice extension of the plant. So the plant is also feeding the Mycorrhiza fungi. And Mycorrhiza fungi will increase the root network by about 70 times that of a normal root. Mycorrhiza fungi also exudes glomalin. Glomalin is like a biotic glue, a plant glue, so to speak. And that helps hold the soil pores together. It'll help form soil aggregates, make the soil stable, so that when it does rain, all the pores stay open. And that's one of the reasons why we don't promote tillage. We want people to do no-till. Whenever you do tillage, you're destroying the Mycorrhiza fungi. Whenever you're putting commercial fertilizer down, you're starting to hinder the Mycorrhiza fungi. I'm almost done. And this slide kind of sums it up all. This soil is naked, hungry, thirsty, and running a fever. And I think I've talked about that early enough. This is what we don't want to see. It rains, soil can get a crust on it, the soil erodes, oxygen can't get into the soil, the biology is not getting fed, the hydrologic cycle is not functioning, the nutrient cycle is not functioning. We need to get our soils healthy. And if I'm at a water quality meeting and if the word soil health doesn't come up, I'll bring it up, or we're missing the boat. And soils is all about relationships too. Once the farmers understand that the soil is alive, I believe the farmers tend to treat the soil differently. I know when I know something is alive, I treat it differently. I want to respect it. On the left, you have a farmer not probably thinking about the biology in the soil. On the right, you have a farmer understanding the biology. He realizes he's going to feed the soil. He's going to get the life going in the soil so that he can not have to put so much fertilizer and so on. So if we can have healthy soil, we can have clean water, clean air, healthy plant, healthy animal, and healthy people. And Matt will talk a little bit more about that sort of thing. And one last thing is, you know, money always comes into play with certain things. Following the soil health principles, when you don't have to put on as many nutrients, pesticides, fungicides, you're doing no-till, you're using less fuel, your profit is actually increasing. With corn, there was a survey done by the Soil Health Institute together with the Cargill Company, and they interviewed 100 farmers, larger farmers. I think they had about 1,000 acres or more. They've been following the soil health principles for roughly about 20 years, possibly, something like that. And they found that for corn, their net income was increased by $51.60, soybeans by $44.89. They're making more money. Now let Matt tell you about what he's doing.
Let's try that.
This one?
Let's try that.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
All right, good morning. Like Andy mentioned, I'm Matt Winker. I'm actually one of 4 demonstration farms for Ozaukee County and board member of Clean Farm Families. And as of Tuesday, I was voted vice president. So now I'm not much higher. Just to give you a little background, I guess, I am a dairy farmer. And the other things I had already mentioned. What got us into doing no-till and cover crops is we bought, my wife's farm was in her family. We acquired an awful lot of debt, and I said, oh my God, we ain't gonna make it. Milk prices went way low, and I said, we've got to find ways to cut expenses or we're gonna be looking for city jobs, and I hate carrying a lunchbox. So it got us into looking into no-till cover crops just to simply save money. And I guess I kind of fell into this by accident. I did not know this was a journey I was going to be on. These are just some of our sponsors for the Clean Farm Families, the Ozaukee County Demo Farms. And I do kind of have to fly because I got a lot of slides to get through here. We're going to be here till noon. This is our Inner Cedar that we purchased with Fund for Lake Michigan money. Basically, this machine is putting 3 rows of any kind of cocktail mix, meaning different cover crop seeds in between our corn rows. We kind of want to create a relationship between our corn and our inner seeds. They do feed each other. It's a lot like the forest. You don't just see trees out there. No, you see your different grasses out there. So on and so forth. This was a demonstration that myself, now President Mike Paulus, Andy Holschbach, and NRCS agent Mike Patton put on for our county board. You see the Inner Cedar in the background. The tractor was at that time owned by Farmers Implement. And with the COVID stuff, I mean, you people all know cars are hard to get, parts are hard to get. The same as with agriculture equipment. So we were leasing this tractor for a couple of years, knowing it probably was going to get sold, and we're going to be out there with a horse and buggy pulling this Inner Cedar across the field. We actually put on a demonstration for our county board. Hey, would you be interested in purchasing this tractor? So we have something to pull it with. This is actually a soil health, help me out, Andy.
Soil health trailer.
Yeah, soil health trailer, Rainfall simulator. And as you can kind of see there, the one you're right there, that's bare naked soil like Andy had showed. Look in the jar that I'm kind of pointing to there. Do you see how brown and disgusting it is? And like the gentleman earlier this morning pointed out all the dredging you got to do. I don't want that soil running off my field into the lakes and the rivers. Our soil is actually up there. I want to say we're the second one from the left. I can't remember anymore. You see the jar there, second from the left, kind of right behind my leg, how clear that is and how little water is in it. That's from doing no-till and cover crop. We don't have necessarily have a water runoff problem, we have a water infiltration problem. So it actually, when soil is getting tilled, you're closing up all your pore space, you're closing up all your worm pores that they created. The water's just running on the top. We don't want that. We want it running down. Just our motto here, Clean Farm Families. This is our board here recently taking. Unfortunately, sad to say, our president, who's sitting in the center there, was an excellent leader. Passed away from brain cancer here in January, so that's how we change up with our leadership. In his obituary, I guess just to touch on Jim, the kind of guy he was, he mentored a lot of people, and thankfully I was one of them. These are the 4 demonstration farm network families. We do a lot of, between the demonstration farms and the Clean Farm Families, we do a lot of schools, I guess as you call it. This gray-haired guy up here, that's Ray Archuleta, one of my mentors that I learned a lot from. We've had him up here speaking to farmers, ranchers, and all kinds of office people regarding our agriculture. We do have a demonstration plot on Highway 57 up in our area. It's kind of labeled there A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. So we do have a no-till cover crop plot that it's always strictly due. And then the other number, we're doing all conventional tillage. You're chisel plowing in the fall, you're working in the spring. And we're doing side-by-side comparisons. Obviously, the crops are getting rotated through all 3 plots, but we're showing that no-till cover crops can be profitable, and we can also improve our soil over time without, and over time, I think we will be able to for sure show the increased organic matter or increased fertility in the soil. Just another picture to Inner Cedar, actually the dead center one in the top, that's actually in one of our fields. It actually was the very first year that we purchased the Inner Cedar. We'd also do like demonstration of, we do have a lot of dairy farms in Ozaukee County. Some of them are getting rather large. Manure applications, this was actually on one of our demo farms. So this machine here is kind of like creating a slot. The blade will run just at such a slight angle to actually kind of create a slot. Manure's injection, and then there's a disc in the back that'll basically close that slot. And if you don't go crazy on putting the amount of manure into a field, which we want to do light doses, you could walk across that field in your Sunday shoes. Just some more, lots of field day events. We just had one here in February. We actually had Gabe Brown up. I think we had close to 150 people. This was a soil health academy that myself, Andy, and a few other local farms went to Watertown to attend. Gabe Brown is actually in the Green Bay Packers sweatshirt, and Ray Archuleta. And another guy that got to be good friends with in the back is Russell Hedricks. He's from North Carolina. That guy, for not having any farm background at all, was a firefighter, got into farming, did it all the right way, no-till cover crops right away, and is setting state records down there for corn yields. This is just a picture of our farm, my family, my 2 daughters. A little bit about myself. We're down on cows. We're getting older and running out of ambitions. We're down about 100, 450 acres of land, corn, beans, alfalfa, rye, winter wheat. We used this cover before. Little bit of background. We want to reduce our chemical use. In the years since we went into no-till cover crops, we are pesticide free. We are insecticide, fungicide. We are free of all of them. We are still using herbicide yet to terminate our cover crops. On our fertilizer needs, we are only purchasing nitrogen and sulfur. Our phosphorus, which is a big one that leaches or gets into our waters, we are free of buying that and potassium. This is one, I got a couple slides here, which I better keep moving here too, that I've actually stole from Gabe Brown. This is kind of the one thing that really makes you go from the conventional side of farming into no-till. If you want to make small changes, change the way you do things. If you want to make major changes, change the way you see things. This is soil actually off of one of our fields. A little bit blurrier here than what I'd like to see, but we kind of want a cottage cheese looking soil. If it's real fine, real gritty, it ain't healthy. This was actually only about 4 years in a no-till, and that's only a handful of soil. And what do you see there? A worm. This is just a no-till drill for you guys that don't know what it is. Same concept as that manure application. It's just creating a slight slot, and it's closing that slight slot in the back. And as you see behind the drill, you can't even tell it was even in there. Same thing as our corn planter. This is actually last spring. Andy showed the picture of the bare dirt. This is what I'm planting into. This is actually one of our alfalfa fields that was coming out. It was, I would say, mid-shin high, not terminated yet. I think I was written. No, I did terminate ahead of it. But it's always only a day or two ahead of me planting it. This is how I plant corn. And this is was a couple years ago. As you can see, that's how little disturbance we are doing to our soil to put seed in the ground. This I did a couple times, kind of nerve-wracking. So this is chest high winter rye. If we get it at the right stage, we can actually roll it down and mechanically terminate it instead of using chemicals. I've had mixed results. I've had it kind of work and kind of not. We're learning. This is nothing. I'm into this now 8 years, and I can tell you flat out, I don't even know half of what I need to know. This is a journey. It's not something you're going to jump into and have it all figured out. Oh. Another thing we use rye for, this will feed our entire young stock on a year. And as you can see there, one swat, I mean, there's a lot of feed out there. It's very cheap feed, and yet it overwintered, and in spring I am putting in a cash crop. Another picture of inner cedar out in the corn. We are learning. This is way too tall for inner seeding now. We kind of want to be at the V3, V4 stage, which is, I'd call it mid-shin, ankle high, pretty short. This is at inner seeding later on in the year. You can kind of see 3 rows of a grass, a legume, a brassica, all growing out there between our corn rows. One thing I was telling Andy in the way here, like for our dairy side, and even on the grain side, you can catch it too. There's a thing called vomitoxins. So vomitoxins, if your soil is unhealthy, when them raindrops hits that soil splashes. Now your soil splashes up onto your corn stalks. Well, now we're chopping it off to feed our cows. Our soil, I believe, is getting so healthy. When we sent in a sample to our lady that we're buying our inoculants from, she said we had the lowest vomitoxin test that she's ever seen. So healthy soil does go a long ways. Just another picture later in the year. I'm gonna admit I'm not out chasing yield. I'm out chasing profits. Still a very nice looking corn crop. Do I compete with all the big guys in their 200 bushel? Nope. But I will with my checkbook. This is that same inner seeding later on in the following spring. This stuff was it wasn't hip high, but it was getting darn close to it. Actually, this was on one of our rental properties. I asked the lady what she thought of it. She said, "Can I get them flowers in blue?" Same field here. I'll let you listen to this.
I'm a climate scientist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight. What you're looking at is a supercomputer model of carbon dioxide levels in the Earth's atmosphere. Visualization compresses 1 year of data into a few minutes. Carbon dioxide is the most important greenhouse gas affected by human activity. About half of the carbon dioxide emitted from fossil fuel combustion remains in the atmosphere, while the other half.
This right here is a month and a day of the year.
In the northern hemisphere, We see the highest concentrations focused around major emission sources over North America, Europe, and Asia. Notice how the gas doesn't stay in one place. The dispersion of carbon dioxide is controlled by the large-scale weather patterns within the global circulation. During spring and summer in the northern hemisphere, plants absorb a substantial amount of carbon dioxide through photosynthesis, thus removing some of the gas from the atmosphere. We see this change in the model as the red and purple colors start to fade. Meanwhile, in the southern hemisphere, we see the release of another pollutant, carbon monoxide. This is a gas that is both harmful to the environment and to humans. During the summer months, plumes of carbon monoxide stream from fires in Africa, South America, and Australia, contributing to high concentrations in the atmosphere. Notice how these emissions are also transported by winds to other parts of the world. As summer transitions to fall and plant photosynthesis decreases, carbon dioxide begins to accumulate in the atmosphere. Although this change is expected, we're seeing higher concentrations of carbon dioxide accumulate in the atmosphere each year. This is contributing to the long-term trend of rising global temperature.
Another thing too in the soil, like when you're doing your tillage, all your carbon that you've stored up in the summer, you're now re-releasing back into nitrogen. So that's why spring and fall, you'll see a higher carbon release. And I'm not doing that. My carbon is staying in the soil because we don't disturb it.
Understand both human emissions and natural fluxes of carbon dioxide. This will help guide climate models toward more reliable predictions of future conditions across the globe.
Okay, and another thing they did last year, I was part of Dennis Bush's rainfall infiltration rates. Conventional tillage where you're working everything, you're only going to get about a 1/4 inch an hour infiltration rates. We're up in 8 years now, we're up to over 2 inches. Just so these are declined in the minerals from tillage in your meats. This was just a meeting that we did 2 summers ago, and I'm out of time.